Alright guys, well this is my flesh and beam. It's probably different than everybody else's flesh and beam, but this is what I learned on. I made this myself. It's a piece of maple that I had, and I took a sander to it and I mounted it, and it's on a piece of steel which fits on the side of my table. I'll maybe show you that setup after. And but anyway, so this is my sharp flesher. So if I need to use this to go down the back of that beaver, this is the one I'm going to use. This is really sharp. It's like super sharp, but it's a feel thing. For me, it took a while, but once you get that feel of how it comes off, you usually don't forget. It's kind of like riding a bicycle. Now this is my dull one. This is the one that if I get to use, literally just pushes everything off. This is what I use on my otter. I pushed everything off on the otter, even on the tail. I found if when I did my otter tail, if I left as much fat as I could on the otter with those two little ridges that are in there, this pushed it off no problem at the end. So we're going to get my beaver skin, put it here, put it on the horn, that's what I call it. So it's straight like that. Now we can see, here's the head, goes down to the tail. Alright, so what I want to do now is I'm going to have to remove all this flesh that I left on there. Like I said, the first spot I'm going to really watch is the spot where the Connie bear got him right across there. It was a good catch, you know, it nailed him, there's no problems, but I'm going to watch that. So I'm going to try my pushing it first. So what I do is I just hold that right like that. Pretty good. This beaver's right on the edge of being able to push it, being able to cut it, or having to cut it. I continue to push here. I seem to be doing okay. So my big deal is I'm always working in this 5 to 6 inch area here. I'm never doing this all the way down here because it hurts my back at the end of it, and probably going to end up cutting the hide if I do something like that. So this way here, if I just continue to work this little bit, I've got control over my flesher. And one thing I forgot to do, because beavers are quite greasy on my cement floor, I always take a couple handfuls of sawdust and I will throw it underneath my flesh and beam. And if I get some of that gristly fat on the floor, it's just easier to clean up in the end. Alright, so turn it a little bit. So you see I worked this area here between the two ears down. Actually I left a little bit, I might work that out too. I hope my camera's not shaking too much. I put a lot of pressure on this. Alright, there we go. So I'm fortunate enough, I think, that I'm going to be able to push this. Working back and forth here. I'm working the other side of the head. This is the front leg right here. So I want to be careful around that, because I know on the bottom side of that front leg we're starting to get into the belly. See how easy that is to push compared to the other stuff? Well, I don't know if you can see that or not, but and then when I get into this belly section, this is where I got to start watching out for the nipples and stuff. So I'm just going to pull that up a little bit, lean on it, work that around that leg, like that. Now I'm going to probably put the leg right in that horn, the end of my beam, work it out a little bit. Okay, there's the nipple. Just going to lightly go over it. I can clean that up after, pushing right off the edge. I can clean that up around the leg. Either do it now or I can do it after. I'll do it now while I'm here. All right, so here's the leg. I don't know if you can see this right here. That's the nipple. If I had pushed on that real hard, that would have ripped down, maybe ripped, and then there'd be a big tuft of fur came out. But you know, they don't grade you on that. Mind you, anybody that watched my beaver grading video would know that he drew that line, that this area here is really relevant. But I like to send in good looking furs to the auction house, and you know, you got to take a little bit of pride when you do this. Okay, so we're going to keep going. I'm going to continue to push it off. There's one there. Just working my way down. I'm going to go to the other side. Now I'm over that spot where the coney bear hit him. Being careful. And over. I'm over at the other side on the front leg. Pushing all this down. Like that. Hook the leg in the end again. Working all this off. Now I'm into that section where I have to be careful here. Just slowly, oh, don't let it fall off. Very easily pushed off that fat. There we go. On the belly there, on the belly on this side, very carefully. This beaver was just small enough that I could push stuff off. But any size beaver, I would use this on the belly sections, like I said, I showed you there. And I'm probably going to have to use it down where the gristle is, the sharp one. Talking about some different things different people do. I have a friend, the wild squirrel hunter, Keegan. He uses the Ulu. We've showed you that on one of the Moncton Fur Harvester show. Convention, I guess, not show, but he's pretty good at it too. I would try it, and I tried one once and made a terrible mess. This seems to work the best for me. You can cut some of that stuff off if you want, if you don't want it hanging around. I just use it, I leave it on there because I use it as a weight, and it kind of makes things roll. Gives you that round edge. I don't know, maybe it doesn't, but that's my perception. So here we go, another section here is where the coney bear got him, plus is on the belly. So I want to be really careful in that section because the belly's soft to start. Just with a little mark like that, it could rip quite easily. So I'm well by it now. Alright, keep pulling it up. Like I said, just working this section. You might see me working down here a little bit. I find with my fleshing beam to do the edge, so I'm not left with fat. I find it's the best place to do it is on this side. I don't know why, but I just find it works the best for me. Well, if I got anything to say from what I've learned from being a novice trapper and and in the fleshing room here and the skinning room is if you've got different kind of species, you plan on skinning and fleshing and all that kind of stuff in the same night, make sure you change how each species is treated. I had got that otter on Saturday and the fox, and I did my otter up, and anybody that's ever fleshed an otter knows you can scrape those things till the cows come home. They're tough as nails, man. I don't know if you could scrape your way through one. So I did up the otter, and I was scraping really hard like that, and then it was time to do the fox, and I threw the fox on, and yeah, I didn't change my tune. I pushed on it really hard, and I messed up the belly a little bit. I'm not too proud of myself about that one, but a lesson learned. You know, make sure you apply the appropriate pressures and use the right equipment for the right species, you know, because you can really make a mess otherwise. So we're down here at the hind leg, just rolling right over the leg here, down at the belly section, the inside of the leg, that's coming off there. Now I'm starting to get into the area here where I'm probably going to have to get the sharp one. I'm going to cut all this off now. Alright. Now the other thing too, when you decide to cut this off, make sure when you go like this and you grab a bunch of meat and you cut it like that, that you're actually cutting meat and not cutting into the pelt. I didn't do it, but I almost did it one day, and I kind of caught myself. So another lesson to be learned, I guess, from a novice trapper. Cut this off on this side as well. Sorry about that, guys. I had to change the SD card. Like I said, I'm taking my time. So this is great stuff. All the fleshings I've taken off that. I got a bucket over here I've been keeping this in, and this is what I've been baiting my Fisher and Martin boxes with. So I'm just going to set it over here. Alright, so we're down to the bottom end of this. I'm going to bring a little bit more down on this side. I think I get a little bit more going here. Pushing as much off as I can. Down by there. So I'm coming down by the hind legs here. Trying to work this right over the hind legs. Like that. See all that little fat coming off. Of course, as I get closer to the tail here, it starts to get more gristly, and that's where I'm going to have to get the actual sharp one. So here's the back foot. I'm just going to hook it on there, see if I can push a little bit more off here. There we go. Not real worried about here. This is the tail, and the way I generally cut them off, as you can see, it's square. I'm going to trim some of this off once we get them on the board, so I'm not real worried about the edges and stuff when I get down to that section. Push some, still push some. I might be able to push this whole all of it. I'm not going to need the sharp end until I don't think. There we go. Working up here. Here's the other hind foot right here. Okay. Pull this taut. I'm also leaning into it with my belly. I got my flesh and coveralls on. I would suggest to do this in your Sunday duds. Alright. Push right over that hind foot like that. Again, on the legs, I'm not real worried about it. I'm going to trim that inner edge so it'll give it a nice clean edge, and I just nail them shut. Again, some guys take the time and they sew them. I just nail them because I'm no good at sewing. I tried sewing and I'm no good at it. Alright, so working my way down here. This is the fat I was talking about earlier. That stuff slides off and hits the floor. It makes a greasy mess. But with the sawdust down first, it prevents that from happening. Once again, pushing it all off. Down into that other side. Right here, not worried about it. Going to trim it off after. Instead of There you go. Put that stuff in the bucket there. Just give me a sec. Alright, now flip them back on here. Now I'm going to finish up the head. So here's the eyes, there's the nose. So basically what I'm going to take off is all this stuff down to the jowls and stuff. Not a lot there to do, but I want to clean it up a little bit. So right here I'll show you. This is his eyes here, his ears here. There's a little section here of meat that I left, and it's right here. So I'm just going to skin this all back up to the jowls, and like I said, we cut the lips off and all that kind of stuff off after. But what I'll probably do here is I'll use my skinning knife. Just very easily, I don't know if I'm blocking the view there. I'll just skin that up, just like that. Be careful not to cut into the hide. Mind you, I'm going to trim this off after, so it's not that big of a problem, big of a deal. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Get all to the, I'm just taking it to the edge, and I'm being really careful because I don't want to hack into it. Taking it all to the edge. Now, there we go. Now I'm up in the section that I'm going to cut off. Again, they showed you where they measure these guys from. So I will cut this off after. We're going to leave the eyes and the ears and all that kind of stuff. Well, let me get him off the flesh and beam, and then I'll show him my table that I built for skinning and putting him on the board and stuff, and how my board fits into that.